Welcome to the Holy Mischief Podcast. Here we shine a light on the hidden gems of Cartersville and Bartow County. Helpers, creators, and everyday heroes spreading love and kindness in extraordinary ways. Think of us as Mr. Rogers for adults, sharing stories that spark hope, joy, and a little bit of holy mischief along the way. Pull up a seat, neighbor. It's time to meet the incredible people making a difference in your backyard. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Holy Mischief Podcast. I have with me the Betty Crane. Betty, you are the first person on the Holy Mischief Podcast.
Oh.
Yeah. So what do you think people need to know about Holy Mischief?
Well, I'll start from the beginning. When I first heard the term Holy Mischief.
You were blown away.
No.
Oh, okay.
I really thought it was gimmicky.
Right.
If you know what I mean.
I do know what you mean.
Because I thought, how do those two words go together? And I didn't fully understand that. And then as things moved on in our church and under your leadership, I noticed that this word was thrown around a lot. I mean, it was used a lot. You mentioned a lot. There were people that were talking about it.
Yeah.
You really stirred up a conversation about holy mischief.
Right.
And then it began to make sense. You know, I thought, oh, okay. Because I always, mischief is like, oh, the kids are getting mischief. Okay.
Right.
But holy mischief, it just didn't seem to go together. But then the strangest, well, this isn't strange. This is a wonderful thing because something happened in our church.
Yeah.
The personality changed.
Okay.
The atmosphere was different. People were talking about holy mischief, holy mischief. Do you know what that means? Have you done something like that today? Or have you ever had that experience? And the conversation really got started. And then I thought, oh, I get it.
There's something to it.
There is really something to this.
Yeah.
And it is so simple.
It is. It's amazing how one small act of kindness can shift not only the person's day that receives it, but the person's day who does it. And this is the whole reason to do a podcast about Holy Mischief. People who hear the stories are more likely to go and do likewise. And even if they don't, hearing a story of kindness changes them, makes them a happier person, makes them a healthier person. And I think that our faith, even if you're not a believer, I believe that our attitude about life and our health and our mental outlook is all connected, mind, body, and spirit. And that when we look at simple ways to do something to make someone's life better,
right,
it is life-changing. It's transformational.
It is.
And that's what I want people to know who are listening to this podcast, that there are people out in this world that actually do want to see the world change for the better, and they're willing to do something about it. And there are more stories of kindness than we think of.
Well, that you've made that you're a wonderful communicator to get that point across to us, because now I pay attention to things like that. And in the past, okay, so and so did something for me, or so and so did something for somebody else, and I'm thinking, that's it. That's it. And it's a simple thing.
Right.
It's not, doesn't have to be something big and large and huge or involve a lot of money or whatever. It's a simple act of being kind to one another. And it can be even people that aren't in church, that don't go to church, and you'll see them doing these things. It's holy mischief.
Yeah. I called one of the local bakeries this week to see if I could order something special. And, the guy who picked up the phone was like, "Hey, are you Pastor Shannon from Trinity?"
There we go.
I said, "Yes, I am." And he said, I love your radio spots about Holy Mischief.
Wonderful.
And I said, "Oh, that's great. Thanks for letting me know." He said, No, let me tell you. I was in line in Wendy's, and it was lunchtime, and it was somewhat crowded. And this woman comes in and sees a line, and she gets really all bent out of joint. She huffs and she puffs. She's like, "I can't believe we have to wait," and yada, yada, yada. And he gets up to the front of the line, and she's right behind him. And he says, "Why don't you go ahead of me?" And she said, "Oh, no, you heard me complain. And he said, "No, I'm not in a hurry. Why don't you go ahead?" And he said her complete outlook on life changed in an instant. He said, "I can't believe it just really worked." And I went, Thank you for sharing that, because sometimes we'll cast a vision for something and we don't always get to see the fruit of that. So it's been fun to hear these stories of people that aren't associated with the church, but they do hear about this and they're curious.
I've heard people ask me about it.
Yeah, I like to think of Holy Mischief as that moment of disruption, and that's where the mischief comes in. It's something that happens that makes you either pause or pay attention. It's a disruption in your life, but a disruption of love or kindness or joy or even whimsy or wonder. And it can look so very different, like letting someone in front of you in line or dropping off a special gift at a neighbor's house and leaving it on their porch. A whole variety of things.
Well, I think of things that have happened in my life before I even had ever heard of Holy Mischief, which now I can apply that to. And two things that really, and I have mentioned this to you before, involve a phone call, and one of them involves a birthday card. And one is a dear friend of mine who calls me every night or texts me every night ever since my husband died, and that's been 5 years.
Wow.
And she makes sure we are in touch. And she, I said, oh, you don't have to do that. And I didn't think that would, really last this long.
Yeah.
But it has not. And it's been quite a tribute to her. And it's Holy Mischief.
It is. That is.
That. And then my son, his first grade teacher, who I was determined that he would have in the first grade, he is now 52 years old, and she sends him a birthday card every year, because there was a special bond there.
So since first grade, he's gotten a birthday card from his teacher every year.
He gets a birthday card from his first grade teacher.
Wow. So 40-something years later, she's still sending him a birthday card.
Absolutely. And they're both very dear friends of mine. And it's very sweet. But you really made me pay attention to those little things. The other day, I was at the grocery store. And it was one of those cold days while you were away in the warm weather. We were freezing up here. And
I heard there was snow.
No, well, there was some flurries, but nothing.
Yeah.
It was just bitter. It really was.
Cold.
And I had come out to the car, and one of the guys was trying to get the cart straightened out. And it was, he was freezing and I was freezing. And anyway, he helped me with my groceries, which I appreciated. And he said, I'll take your cart for you. And he walked in, and he was just all bundled up. And I thought, I need to go in and give him a tip. But that was just too nice. And I went in, and I couldn't find him. But then I found him, and I said, here, I really appreciate what you did for me. It really helped. And he said, oh, don't give me that. I said, yes, sir, you deserve this. So, I might not have thought to do that, but then in the back of my head, Holy Mischief. You've this is maybe not the best way to say it, but you've indoctrinated us.
Oh, Lord, that doesn't sound good. I don't like that.
But it is. It's become a part of life.
So I'll tell you how it got started.
All right.
And I think I've told you some of this before, but I was newly commissioned in ministry.
Yes.
And I had a friend who was starting a new church. And I got appointed to be his associate while he was starting this new church. And typically you don't get that opportunity. It's a pastor by his or herself, and they don't have a colleague. But we were a little bit, we finagled a little bit and got some funding to make that happen. And he said, listen, this is, I want the church to be a contemporary worship church, but there's more to it than that. I don't want this just to be about worship. I want us to be about serving. And I want to make sure we're serving people in the community, not just people that we know they need it, but everybody. And I was like, well, say more. What does that look like? And he says, I think we need to do once a month. We take all of our small groups and we all go out in the community and we do acts of kindness. We go and we'll buy gas for people because the gas prices were outrageous, or we pass out water on a really hot day, or we pass out hot chocolate on a really cold day. Or we go and we ask people if they would like some plants for their yard, and we volunteer to plant them. And I was like, great, that sounds great. I said, what do you call that?
Yeah.
And he said, well, we're going to call them A-OK projects because they are acts of kindness. So A-OK. Right. And when you do an act of kindness, everything is A-OK. And I was like, well, that is cheesy, but it stuck. And so we did. And every month we would go out and do a different act of kindness project. Well, Alan passed away very suddenly before we even launched our first public worship service. We'd been meeting in small groups, but we had not had a public worship service. And so I preached the opening service, and we, those acts of kindness got us through our grief. And we got about a year or two out, and we were able to celebrate that we were still together, that we were still worshiping, and that it wasn't about us, it was about other people. Well, in the United Methodist Church, as you do, you get appointed to different places. And so at a certain point, it was time for me to move on. But I couldn't let go of that concept.
Yes.
And I either got known for doing acts of kindness, or I got known for being a troublemaker. I haven't really decided which one.
I can understand that.
Because several years later, I get an email from someone in our conference, Scott Parrish, who's in charge of disaster recovery, and he was serving as a missions coordinator somewhere at the time. And he said, what I heard in the email, I wish I still had it.
I wish you did too.
Oh, that would be amazing. In the email, I thought he said, I'm trying to get the Holy Mischief makers of the conference together to talk about missions. And I was like, I don't know what Holy Mischief is, but I'm in because it sounds fun. Now, years later, he said, no. I said I was trying to get the troublemakers together. And he may have been correct on that. I don't really know. But the idea of holy and mischief together sounded fun. It reminded me of childhood wonder and whimsy, and how everything's new when you're young, and it's there for you to explore. And I think faith is like that. I think faith is something that you're always discovering, that you never know it all or have it all. And so why not lean into the curiosity and the wonder? So anytime I would do an AOK project, or my church would do an AOK project, I would use the hashtag Holy Mischief. This social media had gotten big, and hashtags were kind of a new thing. And people started to see that hashtag, and they were like, oh, Shannon Carafonda, Holy Mischief. And at a certain point, I was having my evaluation with my district superintendent. And she said, what's your next step in ministry? And I said, I don't really know. And she said, maybe you could start a movement of Holy Mischief. And I was like, ooh, movement.
Ooh, yeah.
That sounds like, that sounds like indoctrination.
Right. There you go.
It sounds like a cult.
Yes.
I was like, no. No, movements sound like cults. I'm not going to do it. And I got home that night, and I was reading either a devotional or a Bible or something. And I was like, oh yeah, Jesus wasn't, trying to really start an organization. He was trying to start a movement. And I went,
there's that word again.
Oh, I was like, Jesus tried to start a movement, and John Wesley tried to start a movement. And maybe movements are okay as long as they're not focused on me, as long as they're focused on other people and bringing life and grace and love to the world. Maybe it's okay. And so I got a friend to come, and we used a lot of sticky notes on a whiteboard because I love to plan and organize, and we came up with a strategy. And the church I was at the time, we were going to do 40 days of Holy Mischief during Lent, and that was in 2020.
2020.
So we started doing these 40 days of Holy Mischief, and the world shut down to probably a week in. We were maybe 2 weeks into Lent, I think. And at that point, we'd gotten 6 other churches on board. We had a few hundred people in a Facebook group, and we were all going to do these challenges, and we were sharing stories, and it was great. So shutdown happens, and I thought, well, there goes the movement. It's over. I don't think nothing's going to come of it. And people started inviting other people into that Facebook group. Yeah. And when you couldn't be near people and you really wanted community and connection, even though it's not the same thing, it felt like it was connecting us to people. And most of the things that we were doing for Holy Mischief during that time could be done in a socially distanced kind of way. And within 2 weeks, we had close to 1,000 people in that Facebook group from all over the world. People from Australia, people from Canada, who are in there like, I don't know what this is, but it seems like fun and I'm here for it. And so the stories just started to pour in of people doing kind things like, especially during the shutdown,
Right.
the grocery store workers
Right.
felt unsafe and people still needed groceries. And so people finding ways to like you did with the tip, just to honor and say, hey, I see you. And I thank you for being here. This is needed.
It's in the back of my head all the time.
And you matter. Yeah. So, I wanted to have you as my first guest because I didn't realize when I first met you how famous you are, but you're Cartersville famous.
It's fun.
So tell me about the Betty Crane Show.
Well, it started when we had our own local television station, which was quite unique. And I happened to be president of the Bartow County Bulldog Club at one time. And we had a big banquet, and Vince Dooley was here. And at that time, they were beginning to televise local events. And they televised that particular occasion that night at the Civic Center. And I was hosting it and had all the parents and the athletes and a big crowd. We had a really active Bulldog group then. And Herschel Weisbrom, who was involved with the radio station WBHF and Channel 4, called me one day and said, Betty, I'd love to have somebody do some programs for me on Channel 4. Would you be interested? And I said, you bet I would. And so we started out just doing local people in town or some event, or every now and then they'd have a fundraiser at the Grand Theater, and we'd televise that. It was all local events and local things. And then somewhere along the line, somebody said, why don't you have your own show? And I said, great. And we'll call it the Betty Crane Show. And we did it at the Grand Theater. And it was taped. We did about 2 or 3 shows a week. A week. And then they would be shown, at different times during the Channel 4 nighttime. But it was a blast. Amazing. We have children from schools. We'd have people coming through town that were celebrities or authors that came to speak, and we always had an opportunity to have them on and talk about it. Or we'd have a dance group, and being at the Grand made it wonderful because that was a perfect area to have all that done. And I had a great Cheryl Kennedy worked with me, and she was my director, and she really kept it going and kept it straight. It was just a great time.
Fabulous.
And people liked it. And we did Joe Tilley and I did the parades on Christmas. And it was, I don't know, it just kind of took off, kind of like Holy Mischief.
Well, so that's what I love about Cartersville is the community is close and connected, and people care for the people in the community and want to make sure that if someone needs help, that they get the help they need.
Right.
And I think that the Betty Crane Show really is a testament to that because people still talk about it.
Yes, I hear it all the time.
So I was giving blood at Trinity, and I'm going through like the triage, like prep, where you have to answer all the questions, and then they prick your finger and all that. And all of a sudden, one of these nurses in the back of the trailer comes forward. She goes, I can't believe I met her. And I was like me? I hadn't met her yet. And she goes, that is the Betty Crane.
That's great.
And I was like, yeah, she goes to our church. Yeah, she's a big deal. We know the Betty Crane too. So ever since then, you've been the Betty Crane. And
it's been fun. It really has. It's been fun.
Yeah.
But we really didn't take ourselves too seriously. We just rolled with the punches, and it became quite a regular thing. And people liked it and loved watching local television. We missed that. They did football games. I can't say enough good things about Channel 4 and John Osher and what he's done for this community. But it was an opportunity that just sort of happened. But it's going back to Holy Mischief. It's amazing how, and I use that word indoctrination, but I am amazed at the change in this church. That the atmosphere, the personality, the attitudes that people have now. It's been amazing, Shannon.
Do you think we can have that through the county?
I think anything's possible. And the way this thing is taken off here, I do not know why not.
I just think with all the things going on in the world in our country today, I think it would be such a breath of fresh air to be able to focus and see kindness all around us.
Exactly. And when I think about hearing that term for the first time and now where we are, it's truly amazing, the results and the things that are happening individually with people.
Right.
Things that we probably don't even know about, but people are doing it.
Yeah.
They're out there doing it.
They are.
They're experiencing it.
One of my favorite examples is Pam Raines found these two gentlemen in the park, and she's like, "What's going on over there?" And she went up to him and said, "Hey, what's going on?" And they said, "Well, we're giving haircuts to people that need haircuts for free." One of them had been down on their luck at one point in time and couldn't afford a haircut, and ended up paying his way to get trained and certified to become a barber. And so that's his way of giving back. He was giving out free haircuts. And I thought that's life-changing right there.
And there are things like that going on all the time.
And you just don't know.
We need to pay attention.
Yeah.
We really do. We really need to pay attention.
So what is your biggest hope for the Cartersville, Bartow County community?
That we continue to work together. Really work together and to be on the same page. Yeah. And we say this a lot, but we need to love each other.
Yes.
And we need to be willing to listen.
Yes.
Very much so. Listen to each other.
Listen to each other. I love it. Now, if you were going to issue a Holy Mischief challenge to people listening, what is the one thing you want to challenge them to do?
That's a toughie. To reach out, to always be aware.
Yeah.
Of what's around you and what's going on, and if there's a need, to try to fill it.
Yeah. If you see something, or if someone is brought to your mind, there's a reason.
There's a reason.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've seen that happen time and time again.
And perhaps they were created for such a time as this.
Exactly.
I love
Holy Mischief it's changing our lives. And when I first think about that term and then I see what's happened now, man, I'm a believer.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Betty. Thank you for staying tuned with us. We hope to see you on future episodes of the podcast. Please share with your friends, and remember, God loves you, and so do I.
Amen.
Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's dose of hope and holy mischief. A big thank you to Trinity United Methodist Church for sponsoring this podcast and supporting stories that uplift our community. Until next time, keep spreading kindness and making a difference. And remember, God loves you, and so do I.